Thank you, Jack. Thank you to all of you who have come to participate, and a special thank to our panelists who, it would be great if you would come up and we have name tags for you. I believe there are 10 of you. As Jack alluded, this is typically an annual event for us. The town has a very strong commitment to being a welcoming community. We adopted a tolerance pledge several years ago, and one of the things that we try to do as a community is to continue to work to make the town a welcome place to visit, to live, to work, and to learn. So our panel, we have a distinguished panel of about 10, each of whom has their own lens through which they experience the town, and I'm going to ask them to do two things. First, to put their name tag up so we all know each other's names. And we have 1 hour, so if everyone takes about 2 minutes to talk, just give us a thumbnail of your the perspective through which you are experiencing town. So what your role is in town, and then what is Wellesley like today? What's working? What's your observation about Wellesley as a welcoming town? How have you experienced it? And then we'll talk about where are the opportunities for the future? How could the town be doing a better job? And then we'll open it up to questions from the board and from the sizable audience that we have. And the last thing I'll tell you is everyone has a microphone or sharing a microphone. If you press to get a green light when you're speaking and then turn it off when you're not, that would be awesome. So, David, how about we start with you? If you could just give a thumbnail of, so everyone knows, most of us know who you are, but so everyone knows the lens through which you experience Wellesley as a welcoming town and your constituents, and then what your observations are about where we are today.
Sure. So good evening, David Lucier, Superintendent, Wellesley Public Schools. Appreciate the Board of Selectmen hosting this forum. Really critical issues that I'm not sure we're going to do full justice to in an hour. What I would say quickly is my lens clearly is that of an educator and thinking about the 5,000 students in the Wellesley Public Schools and their families and the community and the context in which we operate every day. We asked essentially these questions about a year and a half ago as part of an assessment of the climate of race and diversity in the Wellesley Public Schools. Having experienced some troubling issues in the past, we really wanted to lean into these issues and learn more and go beyond some of the anecdotal information and really in a more systemic way try to understand what that culture looks like for our students, for staff and families. I won't be able to go through all the data points in my time. In short, there was good news and bad news. There's certainly some positive news about the degree to which people feel welcomed, are supported by staff, but there are also some troubling statistics about the high percent of students who have either individually witnessed or heard about other students being treated differently or harassed based on their race or ethnicity, the degree to which programs exist for all students to be successful. So there was a lot there, both to reaffirm some of the good work that's happening, but it also underscored the need for continued diligence. We've got a comprehensive plan based on that assessment that we've been working through, and I'm happy maybe in the Q&A to talk about various pieces of that. But for us, that I would say that experience every day exists on multiple fronts. It exists within our curriculum. It exists within our hiring and retention of staff, their ongoing training, the culture that exists within our schools, the degree to which our efforts around parent and community engagement are successful in reaching out to folks. It also means that our conception of what diversity means has to continue to expand. We're doing a lot more, for example, around gender identity and expression, in addition to a lot of the work that's been going on around race and ethnicity. So diversity is a big topic. At the end of the day, we want all kids, all families, to not just be welcomed, but to feel included, right, which is a much more proactive mindset. So I would offer that opening context and look forward to jumping in more detail as we continue.
Val, do you want to go next?
Sure, absolutely. And thank you, obviously, for putting this program together. Very excited to be here. My name is Michelle Chalmers, she, her, hers. I'm representing the World of Wellesley. And just wanted to acknowledge the board members. Hi, Sajida. Everyone that's here. So if you're a board member for World of Wellesley, please raise your hand as we see. Thank you. I also want to acknowledge that this town is located on the traditional territory of the Massachusetts people. The World of Wellesley is a grassroots organization that was created almost 30 years ago by members of the Wellesley community with a goal to build an inclusive community through dialogue, courageous conversations, and events in order to celebrate all human diversity and where everyone feels welcome. I invite everyone to visit our website, worldofwellesley.org, where I'll leave some books here for people to take to get more information regarding our 2019 events that we are doing. Martin Luther King, we have a breakfast coming up and also a family event. We have a community book read, an author visit, film viewings, multicultural festival, community gatherings, and more. The World of Wellesley has been really instrumental in the town, building community and building opportunities to come together to celebrate and to learn, to David's points. And we obviously support Wellesley Public Schools and all the works that they're doing with their family. We support other town organizations, houses of worship, and try to collaborate as much as we can with organizations. And we're committed to listening and learning from the community and encourage the community to connect with us, share your voice, your thoughts, your ideas. Wellesley has changed a lot from when I grew up here and through our racial, religious, class, gender diversity, and more. And it's increased the value of the community. And so we have a long way to go in building what Martin Luther King called a beloved community. But with the courage to engage across difference and have these conversations and bringing people together, we'll move forward. And I'm really excited to sort of follow up with this conversation. As David said, it's really difficult to come together and have this really empathic and wonderful conversation in 60 minutes. And sort of, so I and the board for World of Wellesley really want to continue this conversation. So we have asked the community center, who allows us to use their space, the Wellesley Community Center, for February 26th at 7 o'clock, that we will have an open opportunity for people to come and to learn more about World of Wellesley, to engage more in this conversation. If anyone and everyone wants to come, it'll be really an opportunity to further the conversation and create next steps. I think action plan or action steps from these type of conversations are really important as we engage together. So thank you to the Board of Selectmen for honoring the diversity annual program. This is something that World of Wellesley suggested and requested of the board probably about 10 years ago, that you guys have been participating in this, and we're thankful that this is a part of the agenda because I don't think it ever was. And so that, again, we have a lot of progress to be proud of, and also realize where we need to go. So thank you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michelle. So Elaine, I know you have a distinct perspective as a business owner, and you and Elizabeth working with our new residents. One of the data points I came across was that 13.5% of our residents weren't in their home a year ago. So there's high turnover, more than 20% of our population defines themselves as something other than strictly Caucasian. So I'm wondering if you could talk about where we are today.
I'm happy to talk about it. First of all, I want to say, I think that aren't we all lucky to live in a town that will take this subject on in this and put the effort and the time and recognize it. And I feel excited about it also and really glad to see it happening. I will say, as I've had conversations with Beth over the past couple of weeks, we've got different kinds of issues, different levels of issues that involve a multitude of requirement of education on our part. One is just the people of color in general in this town. How do they feel about living here? And that's a question that only people of color can answer. I can't tell you that. And then we have an issue of an influx, a large Chinese population, which they, many are not English speaking, and so they have a handicap. They can afford to live in this town, but they have a handicap of a language barrier and a cultural barrier. Then there are various other, I see this. I happen to have a staff that's pretty colorful. And I'm delighted that I do have a receptionist of color. And
So, Elaine, I'm just going to interrupt. I think, did we introduce your firm and where you're from?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I own Pinnacle Residential Properties in town. I apologize if I didn't state that. But I have my IT person is from South Africa, and he's a Muslim, and I love having, and he's worked for us for many, many years. Now, in terms of the really addressing the Chinese population that's coming to Wellesley, because that's where I am at the forefront of seeing it. It's not a group that was particularly well served or is particularly well served. That language barrier just breaks down ways in which we can't communicate. Oftentimes, most times, not often, 90% of the time, 9 times out of 10, that buyer is coming in with a bilingual Chinese agent from another town, and not always close. Maybe Quincy, maybe Boston, maybe Lord knows where. They have no familiarity with our town. They don't know the resources. They don't know how town government works. They don't know how to tell people what you have to do with your trash. They're coming in and they're speaking only in Chinese. My agents are showing homes and trying to talk about the neighborhood and the great things about it and our school system. And it's being translated. And they don't know what's being translated and what isn't being translated. And so my secret weapon has been seated beside me, and I'm going to let her introduce herself, but she has made such a difference in welcoming Chinese into our fold. And the smile she puts on people's faces, the way she has helped them, I can't tell you. So do you want to introduce yourself in Mandarin or in English? Whichever. Give a little bit of your background,
Okay.
and then we'll
Thank you.
chat about the experiences together.
Shang. Yep. And I'll use this mic, I guess.
Oh.
So hi, I'm Elizabeth Shang. I was born in Wellesley, moved away in 1992, but have been blessed to be able to come back. And so, yeah, as Elaine said, I studied Mandarin in college, was fortunate to be able to keep it up. I get to use it at home with my in-laws, so I speak it all the time. And I actually have a master's in education in global competence and curriculum development. Issues very close to my heart have been raised.
Business card.
Yes, so we can chat after, absolutely. So it's something that I think about a lot. Having immigrants in my family and being part of a bilingual family, I think sort of the lens that I bring, that Elaine and I have talked about a lot, is what it is like to be an immigrant in a new community. And I've lived overseas and sort of been on the other side of that. So I think one thing that we work really hard to do is, particularly with incoming Chinese population, is really to help folks feel welcome. Having a friendly space who can speak the language is really helpful and really comforting. I know I've, gone to the doctor in China and had to run errands, and it's terrifying when something is on the line and you're not entirely sure that you can get your point across. So we really try to welcome folks in that way. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, no, you didn't. And it's been a really rewarding experience, the body language of, this slip of a young woman walks in the door and suddenly, and speaks to everybody, and they all say to me, she speaks better Mandarin than I do, but, not me, them.
Not
But it's a wonderful, warm greeting. And what it says, hopefully to them, is we welcome you. We've gone out of our way to make this a more comfortable, enriching, enlightening experience that we can really talk about the town. And we can talk about this whole experience for you much better because we know this area, we know this town, and you're a wonderful broker. We're delighted to welcome in. We can help that person. And so that it's been so good. I can't even tell you. We still have people that'll call and say, "How's Liz?" And, they just love her. Now, I'm just going to throw this out, and you'll all have a perspective and something to say about this. That's great. So we're doing something to help people find a house, buy a house, and understand the town when they come in. But then we drop the ball. And why do we drop the ball? Here's one big reason why we drop the ball. First of all, if I had an outreach, like sometimes people move from Framingham, we put them in our car after they live here. They've moved in. 2 weeks later, they've got an appointment with one of my agents to take a tour of the town, see where to shop, how to get things, where everything is. Well, when you are working with a client, there's an ethics issue in my business. We can't reach out to that client who was brought by another agent. That is the client relationship. And so we have, if we did that, we would be frowned upon by the industry, that suddenly we're seizing upon for, some nefarious purpose. We just wouldn't do it. But there's a hole there, folks, of what happens, particularly to the spouse left at home, not the kids that you're taking good care of, right? What happens to the spouse left at home, and this is universal, I know I'm taking a lot of my time, but in studies even with domestic migration where we don't have a language or a cultural barrier, it's the spouse left at home during the day that suffers the most from a move. So imagine not speaking the language and really being, and not understanding the culture and being so isolated after you get here. What happens then? So I just throw that out, and I'm sure others of you have thought about it. But
Yes, so that's a great setup, because we're going to circle back to how can we take the next step and be better. So I'm going to move to Reverend Sarah Butter, I believe.
Good evening, and I apologize for the voice that's suffering from a cold. It's good to be here. Thank you for inviting me, including me, Beth. Thank you for taking up this topic and continuing the conversation over these years. And it's great to be with a panel that has so much insight to bring. I resonate with the conversation from a couple of different levels. I'm the senior pastor of the Wellesley Congregational Church, the village church in town. I also moved to Wellesley in 2015 and consider myself still kind of a newcomer. And I know what it feels like to be new, and am learning what it feels like to become part of a village like Wellesley. At our church, we work hard on hospitality, and call it radical hospitality. And we start by claiming every Sunday that we're an open and affirming congregation. It's been true for us for 30 years. Very important to our congregational identity to say that. Those words ring especially true to the LGBTQ community, for whom they were intentionally embraced. And it's important to our identity to make sure everyone knows that people of all gender and sexual identities and expressions are welcome in our community. We also think a lot about how being open and affirming includes people who are from different traditions than our own, different religious traditions. We think about people that are in marriages of multiple faiths, multiple perspectives. We also think about people who come from different ethnicities, different cultures, and what does it mean to be open and affirming of people who look differently than us. That's a growing edge for us, and we're seeing it reflected a lot in our new member classes in the last year. It's changed remarkably even in the 4 years since I've been here. 4 years ago, new member classes looked a lot like me. This last new member class had people who were African American, and people who were Indian, and people who were Chinese American, and people who were single moms, and people who were two moms in the same household, and people who were more like the family I come from. And it's quite remarkable to watch it happening in real time before our eyes. It's very exciting. We prize our partnerships in the community that try to help make Wellesley a welcoming community, World of Wellesley being one of them. We also like to work with the ABC program and value very much the strength that comes in those young women who join our community for their high school years. I'm privileged to say that my family is an ABC host family. Now our daughter's from a Pakistani American Muslim family, and she has enriched our life greatly. One of the joys of our congregation in the last 2 or 3 years has been our budding partnership with the Chinese Language School and the Chinese Language Enrichment Academy. Chinese Language School has operated on our site. They are their own institution, but use our space on Sunday afternoons from 1 to 5 for a long time, and some 120 kids come for language and culture enrichment classes. 2 years ago, that group started to expand, and now there's an after-school program 5 days a week from 3 to 6, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and from noon to 6 on Wednesdays. So we are so blessed to have all of these families and children growing up and spending time in our building. And we do see that impacting, too, who is starting to come on Sundays. We are not doing it for that reason. It's not a program designed, our hospitality is never designed to proselytize or convert. It's simply hospitality for hospitality's sake. But at Wellesley Village Church, we believe firmly that relationships matter most, and you can declare welcome, but until welcome is lived out in a relationship, it's not a true welcome. So we work really hard at making words turn into relationships and being intentional about that. I want to talk just briefly about another type of diversity we've been working on this year through our program called Courageous Conversations. We're working on political diversity and bringing people together from different ends of this political spectrum in what, as we all know, has been such a divisive and polarizing climate, and where so many people have retreated into their own camps. Being in camps is not being in relationship. So we're working hard at claiming political diversity as a strength and how we can engage that and grow from the engagement of it. So with that, I would celebrate all of those things that Wellesley Village Church, and I would guess and assume and know that many of the other religious organizations and congregations in our wonderful town are doing as well. I serve the senior clergy of Wellesley meet together for lunch about every 6 weeks. That would include the Roman Catholic congregations, the other congregational congregation, the Unitarian Universalist congregation, and Temple Beth Elohim. So the 5 or 6 of us are together often talking about how we can be in relationship so that the relationship transcends any perceived division. So thank you, Beth.
Terrific, thank you. So Karen and Jamie are kind of partners here. Jamie Jurgensen is the director of the Wellesley Free Library, and Karen Evans is the coordinator of the ESL program. So I'm going to let you two kind of work it out.
Do you want to go first? Yes. So thank you for having us. Jamie Jurgensen, Library Director. I certainly have a personal perspective.
Jamie, I think you're going to need to
Yep. Have a personal perspective on diversity, and it's important to me, but I'm coming to you from a library lens, and as part of the Wellesley Free Library team, thank you for inviting us tonight to share how we value and how we promote diversity at the library. And to your point, I certainly hope we're the next step for the spouse that's left at home, because we have many opportunities for them at the library. When we hire librarians, we ask that they have an ALA accredited master's degree. ALA stands for the American Library Association. Librarians trained at an ALA accredited school are taught the core values of librarianship. One of ALA's 11 core values is diversity, and ALA states that We value our nation's diversity and strive to reflect that diversity by providing a full spectrum of resources and services to the communities that we serve. At WFL, at the Wellesley Free Library, we take those values seriously, and diversity is written into WFL's values as a sense of community and fellowship by ensuring that the library is a gathering place that supports collaborative inquiry, diversity, and enrichment through programs and offerings for all ages. Diversity can be seen in our collection, programs, staff, and resources, from databases like Mango Languages that can help English speakers learn new languages, to print material collections in Chinese and other popular languages, to citizenship materials, to foreign language DVDs and audios. We make access to resources available across all formats. Our staff training this spring will focus on learning more about LGBTQ literature and creating a welcoming environment for everyone. Our programs include bilingual story times in Spanish and Mandarin, as well as in sign language. We also offer a special story time each month that is open to everyone, but is geared for children with sensory issues. Technology makes it easier to reach beyond language barriers. With the press of a button, our self-check machines can be changed to display over 30 different languages. Our adult programs have featured presenters from all over the world. The library has hosted a Diwali celebration, an international ensemble of women in jazz, and on February 10th, we will host an African jewelry making program for all ages. Our longtime partnership with the World of Wellesley has brought film screenings, cultural programs, and more to the library. Patrons can see the world in our diverse art exhibits located in the lobby and the Wakeland room, such as the Persian calligraphy exhibit we had, and the touching photographs of New Americans by Mark Chester. And one of our most important programs is currently funded privately through the Wellesley Free Library Foundation. English as a Second Language, also known as ESL, is coordinated by Karen Evans. Karen was a former ESL teacher before moving to her current position. Karen continues to bring new ideas and new energy to the program. We're so lucky to have her on the team. And tonight she'll tell you more about ESL and introduce 3 students who have been kind enough to, and brave enough to come and speak with us. They're also Wellesley residents. They will share their experiences in this welcoming town and in the ESL program. Karen.
Okay, thank you. I'm Karen Evans. I'm the coordinator of Wellesley ESL. Oops, sorry. Yes. Okay. I'm the coordinator of Wellesley ESL, which is a program for adult language learners who live or work in Wellesley. As Jamie mentioned, the program is sponsored by the Wellesley Free Library Foundation, also Wellesley Friendly Aid, as well as the Gravistar Foundation. I'm somewhat flabbergasted by your comments because we're here and we've been here for many, many years, and I clearly are flying way under the radar. We also have a Chinese broker in the program, by the way, a Mandarin-speaking broker who brings people through. To the surprise, I guess, of many Wellesley residents, we're big. We have a student population which is always changing, but right now it's just under 200 students from 26 different countries. Most people, when they get here, come to our door almost immediately, some before they've even purchased the house when they're looking. I do all the intake, I meet with them, I meet with a tremendous amount of Chinese. There is no hole, as far as I know. Your perspective and mine are very different. I'd love to chat with you more about that some other time. A little bit about the program. We've got a large volunteer staff. We've got 14 teachers, one of whom is milling around here tonight someplace, Carolyn Zincati, back there. We've got 30 tutors, 2 of whom are here, Kira Carlisle and Erica Chang, to support the students who will be speaking after me. The curriculum. Like our population, our curriculum is always changing to meet the needs of our students. Right now, we have 23 classes housed in various locations throughout Wellesley. Classes are group lessons for all skill levels, from rank beginner to advanced. Some classes are continuous. They'll go full year, once a week, every week, through the summer. Others are short-term electives that are targeted to address specific language needs, vocabulary building, or a writing seminar, a pronunciation seminar, things like that. A business class is coming up, a YouTube video class is coming up. There are brochures around here someplace. Okay, thank you. Recently, we offered a civics class where students were given pocket constitutions and were taught about the different political parties, the Electoral College, and they even watched the Kavanaugh hearings and discussed it in class. Additionally, we have tutors who work on large-scale goals, I want to speak better English, to very specific goals of language development. One student, for example, who works at Whole Foods came in and met with me. I was absolutely unable to speak with her because she spoke no English and my Spanish is terrible. I learned from a Spanish-speaking translator that she felt that she couldn't advance from a bagger, which is what she's doing at Whole Foods, unless she improved her English. So she has been working assiduously with a tutor one-on-one, and I'm very pleased to report she has gotten a promotion. When I see her at Whole Foods, we have very simple conversations in English, but they're lovely. And she's also decided to go for full citizenship. We always support our students who are going for full citizenship, but also students who are here for a while as well. It's important to also recognize that the teachers and tutors are much more than language instructors. They're the ready resources for the questions about the do's and don'ts to living in Wellesley, to living in America. I cannot tell you how many times students have said to me, I don't know what to say to my neighbors. Or, why was my child invited to sleep at someone's house? That's totally weird. I'm not comfortable with that. What is a cotillion? What is a prom? These things are mind-blowing if you don't know about them. They're mind-blowing if you do know about them. So the teachers and tutors provide kind of a safe space so that students feel free to ask the questions that they might be reluctant to ask in a different setting. Finally, as students become more confident and progress, and they do progress quite quickly, you'll see that through some of these students tonight, they're asked to become volunteers for ESL, so they are giving back. They will work as teaching assistants in the beginners classes. They will act as translators for me at intake, and just do all sorts of things. They're amazing people. Students come into the program with all sorts of different goals. These are 3 different students from 3 different countries who can share their experience a little bit with Wellesley ESL and with the Wellesley Free Library. So I guess you're up, Ruslan.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Ruslan. Karin asked me to speak about my experience with the ESL program, and I'm very happy. I'll tell. And I'm very happy to be here and to speak about it. Originally, I'm from Russia, St. Petersburg. I'm a mathematician. Now I'm here in the US to get an MBA in order to move from a mainly research area to management in the industry. My girlfriend lives in Wellesley, so actually we live not far from Wellesley Square. That is how I first came to the Wellesley Free Library, and honestly I was amazed. I have extensive experience with the largest libraries of the Europe. I mean, I worked in the libraries. And I must say that the Wellesley Free Library is a place where it is a pleasure to be and to work, very convenient and welcoming. So the ESL program for me personally was a huge help to start living here, to navigate in the community, to get an orientation. I have been truly enjoyed the English language classes, great teachers, serious approach. The class on civics that Karen just mentioned, that is about American Constitution, electoral system, was not just enjoyable, it was tremendously important for the people who attended it. And I appreciated the opportunity to participate in it. I may say from my personal experience that the ESL program, being on the mission to be an entry gate for the new residents, also serves to community as a whole, since the community actually wants its new members to be integrated in its life as fully as possible, to understand the rules, to contribute in community's life. So, and the ESL does the work, and it is great help. Thanks. Thank you to the library, and thank you to the ESL program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Qing. I'm from China. And I'm very glad to have a chance to share my experience with Wellesley and with ESL program. 2 years ago, I moved to Wellesley from China. At that time, my English was very poor. For example, I once put not gas but diesel into my car by mistake because I didn't know the word diesel. I was frustrated with huge language barrier. Some Chinese people told me there was a ESL program in Wellesley Free Library. They said it should be helpful for me. I still remember the first day when I attended ESL class. It was a conversation class on Tuesday, September 13, 2016. I started from intermediate class. In fact, I could only understand a part of the first class, but I didn't give up. I have taken more than 9 different classes, including one about culture using the New York Times, and a civics class about the Constitution of the United States and amendments. All of these classes not only helped me improve my English, but also helped me know American culture, history, and politics. Now, watching CNN news has become my daily routine. Besides that, I have a tutor from ESL program. She is also a volunteer to help me practice English. All the ESL teachers are patient and nice. I have learned from them not only English, but also volunteer spirit. I always tell my friends that ESL program helps me better understand and adapt our community and life in America. Now I'm a teacher's assistant in one of ESL beginners class. I have joined Wellesley Public Schools Translation Club as a parent volunteer. We have translated some documents and notices for Wellesley Public Schools and for Wellesley Council on Aging. In the end, I want to say I feel very lucky to live in Wellesley. It's not only because of the excellent ESL program, but also because of the nice people. I would like to express my thanks to ESL teachers, tutors, and other warm-hearted people in Wellesley, such as the stranger who called a tow truck for me when I mistakenly put the diesel into my car. My neighbor presented me a welcome letter and cookies when the first day I moved into my house. People in Wellesley Chinese American Network helped me deal with common problems of new immigrants. I really appreciate all of the less people and less community in Wellesley. Thank you.
Good evening. Hello, my name is Lilia Diaz. I'm from Venezuela, married for 10 years. I have 2 wonderful kids. I'm an architect as a profession, but here, and these days, I'm a full-time mom. I moved to Boston in 2014 when my husband was transferred here with Gillette. I love Wellesley for the schools, the community, and the activities for my kids. My daughter Valentina, she is 7 at Hardy School, and my son Vicente, he is 4 and he's at POS. POS was the best recommendation that we received. My son needs extra support, and POS helped him with the mobility and language skill. Just last week, he started a new class with the Raising a Reader at the Public Free Library to improve his language and concentration. The library is the best environment for him and his lesson. We are blessed for having such great support from the town. I use the library a lot too. I found the English as Second Language program on the website, and I sent an email and immediately got a response. I'm in 2 classes, conversation and grammar, and after 1 month, I asked for a tutor too. I love my tutor Erica that is here and helped me with this, to write this, and my classes, and I feel they have improved my language skill. Learning English at the library makes me feel more confident in the community. I volunteer to help at the school so I can contribute with the town and feel more comfortable at Hardy and POS. Sometimes it feels hard to connect with the other moms because I need to learn more fluency with the language. Making new friends is an exciting part of moving to a new place, of the whole experience of living in a different country with a different culture. I also enjoy learning from my classmates. At a potluck meal in one class, we share with foods with the other people from Brazil, China, Spain, Germany, and Colombia. The diversity in my classes and all over the town makes Wellesley feel like an inclusive, welcoming place with so many activities where I see people from all over the world together and their kids are playing together. The library is an important part of making this town a more welcoming place for all. The ESL means a lot to me. This program at the library has been very helpful too, and it makes me feel even more part of the Wellesley community. I love this town. Thank you so much.
And last but certainly not least, Jerry, could you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your organization and kind of your experience in Wellesley, how your members feel and how you felt.
My name is, hello?
Yep. It doesn't sound louder, but it.
Okay, thank you. My name is Jerry Liu. I'm the president of Wellesley Chinese American Network. And I actually just took the position last December. So maybe I skipped something, but I probably can give you more detail once I have the more information. Maybe give me some time just. So this is a new organization. It's a nonprofit volunteer organization and set up only 3 years ago. It's just a few group of Chinese people. They observed more and more Chinese families actually move in our town recently. And some of actually even directly moved from China. So we felt there's a big demand that we need to get those people more familiar with our town, with town service, with the surroundings, and all they can enjoy in the town. So that's why this is the main purpose this organization set up 3 years ago. And what they do is, first of course, they help new immigrants to get involved with town, and also is also the main support for the Chinese school. And all the panel members, what they just said, actually, if I can speak for the Chinese community, if I can speak for them, really appreciate everyone, people like Elizabeth and Eileen, or our church. Without church, there's no Chinese school. And also the library and the public school. Recent years, we saw there's more and more support, at least, from our Chinese community. They could say they got a lot of support, a lot of help from all the town people here. So really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. And I want to say, and please continue. And personally, I originally from China, and Dalian, China, which is a very beautiful city close to Japan and Korea. And I moved to America 2000 and joined my wife. We kind of, for different schools, we settled in Seattle, New York, Madison, Wisconsin, Milwaukee. There's a lot of different places, but we end up in Wellesley in 2009, and we have 2 lovely children since then. So we love Wellesley a lot, and we're the fans of the town. So from my perspective, I would think if some role we could play, maybe it's just like Elaine mentioned, the moment they drop the ball, our organization would like to come in to pick the ball, to hopefully to build a bridge, because we know the Chinese, we know the language, we know the culture. So we try to build a bridge between our town and those new immigrants, and even some Chinese, they probably live in other towns, but now they move in Wellesley, they still want to learn more. And what could I understand, the Chinese people, if it's not stereotypes, somehow they're conservative people, to be honest. So if they're dealing with quite challenging situation, they get inquired even. So, and that's why what you do here, maybe you thought that is a little, but for them, that is big. It's a big help, and we got a lot of positive feedback from our Chinese community for the Wellesley town, for the library, for the public system, and of course the church. We call the mother church. So I think our community, our organization even is new, but there's a big opportunity. We could help the Chinese community and also our town to nurture a very healthy and meaningful purpose for both of the communities.
Jerry, what's your URL for your website?
Sorry, really, that's something I haven't got. But I can send you. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and thank you. And that's another thing I want to mention. So, because, I just took the position, we have some plan. We want to connect with all our other, like a World's Wellesley, other active organizations in the town to hopefully we could, set up some platform between the Chinese community and help the new immigrants get more involved in our activities and the community life. So, thank you, everyone.
As I was an immigrant to 2 different countries in my past 3 years to Egypt, following my husband being the trailing spouse, the stay-at-home person, as Elaine mentioned, and also to Romania. So I can very much appreciate what it feels like to be downright terrified, to not know a soul, not speak the language, look different, practice a different religion and not necessarily be welcomed because I was female. So I think these stories have been wonderful, and I think you're all doing great work. A couple of things I would suggest is if you are meeting someone for the first time who's new, and you can put them in touch with someone else who's been here a little longer or knows their way to the library or something, that is huge. If that first person hadn't done that for me in Egypt, I might have spent 3 years reading paperbacks in my apartment, because it is scary. I'm also thinking that perhaps it's an opportunity for the town to put some information on its website, because we have a service that allows the website to be translated. And so it might be a way where we can help get the word out, that people can read it in their language and find their way to the next place, because that one hand helping you along to wherever you need to get to opens you up to the community, and that's what makes a difference, because people want to be involved. So just a thought.
So we have about 10 more minutes. I want to make sure that, as a group, I know you've done some thinking about ways in which, as Blythe was alluding, we could be doing a better job to be inclusive and to be welcoming. There are clearly a lot of great things going on. There are a lot of resources. Does anyone have ideas they want to share about things they think we, as different members of the community, could be doing better to be more inclusive, more welcoming, or to Jerry's point, help get the word out about where those resources are? So it's an open question for our panelists, and then I'm going to open it up to the board and the audience. Don't all speak at once. David?
I'll break the ice. So, boy, it's a big question. Just one thing I would offer, it's actually one of our budget proposals this year, is to actually create a position, a senior level position around diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is everyone's work in our organization, in fact, the community. A lot of people touch this, and yet without the structure and the capacity to bring and maintain a sharp focus, to create that level of planning, to maintain a level of accountability for what we're doing, to create those partnerships, our bandwidth is limited. And so we feel like actually creating that position will allow us to take our good work and just continue to enhance that, because we just don't have the staff to bring the kind of ongoing and deep focus we want for this work. So that's one of many budget proposals we have this year. But to your question, I think it speaks to that specifically.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I would obviously like to support also in what Dr. Lucier just stated in terms of having a diversity, equity, and inclusion director for the Wellesley Public Schools. I think that the World of Wellesley, as a volunteer nonprofit organization, really is given a lot of responsibility and a lot of pressure, if you will, to support the town in our initiatives, and when obviously unfortunate and very difficult things happen. And I think that to support our schools, the World of Wellesley will obviously always be there, I hope, but I do support that position in the schools, and I hope that that budget item that David has added is taken very, very seriously. And I think that it goes to a larger point as to, this has been a wonderful panel and a wonderful opportunity, but I think what we need to do in thinking about these important and having these courageous conversations is what voices are not here, who is not recognized and showing up at this panel in our community. And I think there's a lot of marginalized people and groups that are in our community that are left out of a lot of conversations. And so there's a lot of internal work that I think that all of us need to do as a community and as a people. And so I would just encourage the Board of Selectmen and obviously the community to continue asking these difficult questions and thinking about, who isn't represented and what can we do. Beth and I have had that conversation. I know you're looking at, services that may be available in the community and what are the barriers to people finding out that information and or having transportation or other issues around class that I think is another issue that Wellesley, an affluent town, we don't think about a lot. We think and assume that people have the means to be able to participate. And if they're not participating, then somehow maybe that's just because they don't want to or they don't have, any desire to, when it might actually be another reason. So I would just continue to push us to have these conversations. Again, welcome everyone on February 26th to join the World of Wellesley to sort of continue this conversation and next steps and be able to allow other voices that weren't able to be heard tonight to be heard. So thank you.
Are there any other kind of ideas about things that might help get the word out about services, or things that would be more inclusive, more welcoming, more orienting for people when they move in or, start realizing, oh, I'm here, how to get around town?
I would say, you're right. I had no idea of all the services you offered, and I've lived in town for about about 37 years. So, and I've been selling real estate in town for about 33 of them, and no idea that you were yeah. And it's staggering to me too.
But we're not small. That's,
Yeah,
we're obviously.
I've never seen your collateral material. People bring stuff to my office all the time to share where these are resources for people moving into town. We've got 2 resource books, yay long, and we've also got it online. I would love to have your stuff. Love it.
And you will get it.
Okay.
So I see it being passed around the room. So that's a bit of a I think, Elaine,
to
that
hand people that, because
No, it's
that
pretty
is a
clear
good
that
step.
we all need to know about each other and refer to each other.
Yeah.
yes.
It's pretty clear that we all need to know about each other and refer to each other. I can see that just from the small amount of time in this panel.
So
Thank you.
are there panels, you feel like we've gotten the issues out? Are there comments from the board that, or should we open it up to the public? So are there, go ahead, Jerry.
Sorry.
Here you go.
Thanks. Sorry. So one of our action actually this year is try to publish some journal kind of including the surrounding information, including the town, of course, and also the surrounding towns. So if any of you or your organization, you have some information, maybe I hope you can connect with us so we can put in that journal. The Chinese community actually have what they use called the WeChat a lot. It's like 500 people in that WeChat. So typically they publish information over there. And that's the way we try to make use of, so more people, especially new neighbors, they can get involved in the town activity. So I hope, through we kind of like a portal, then I would like everyone can connect with us, so we will help to communicate the information there. Thank you.
I want to add one more comment. Resources are so important in sharing resources, and I'm really grateful to learn about some of the table. Relationships are what build a community, and I think that one of the things we can always be thinking about is how siloed different groups can become. So what are the things that we can do that, cross-pollinate and weave our lives together? What are the community celebrations that bring us all out into the streets together, or where we can share space and share conversation and face-to-face relationships? I'd love to see more of that. I don't have all the answers to that. And another comment I'd like to make is something we're trying to do at the church, and I think we need to do in our community, is make sure that voices of diversity are in leadership positions, and how we intentionally invite that and make that happen, and not just wait for it to happen someday. I think that's something we could really take on as a community and think about, because people aren't truly welcome until they're part of creating the fabric of the community, not just receiving its resources. And there's so much richness that happens when we lead together.
Great, thank you. In the back?
Hi, I'm Jen Fallon, and I'm a member of the Sprague PTO. I think so, it's green? Okay. And we had a great meeting of all the PTOs with Dr. Lucier and some of his staff the other night. And while we thought that we were thinking of diversity and inclusion, we realized we were not doing a very good job. So just a few things that we're going to be doing. And I do think some of the other schools, like Hardy in particular, are a bit more advanced than we are. But we're going to be adding a diversity component, a role on our PTO. And we're going to utilize the diversity club at the high school for maybe just a few of our documents that are really important for the parents to get out. The translation club, I'm so sorry, the translation club, so they can translate a few of the documents. We have had a large influx, for instance, of Chinese kindergartners, and we realized we really were not helping the children or the parents like we could do. So I just wanted to mention that we just realized the big need that we had last week, and we're starting to take those few steps and look forward to connecting with others as well.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone on the board?
Well, I think this has been a very eye-opening experience, and I'd like to make, I guess, some judgment-free zone comments that, in fact, we're hearing that there's a lot of things going on that people who've been in the town a long time and think of themselves as very connected, in fact, don't know about. So I think that's a first, to me, that's one of the first lessons here, is that we need to put an organized effort in quickly to just broadly get information out. And one of the things that occurs to me on that, and I understand, so I've heard of WeChat, I don't know it, but I am barely, and I think typically of my generation, I'm barely on Facebook and that. But we have some communications vehicles that we don't necessarily use for things like this, but I think we should consider, of which one of our most universal is putting some information in one of our monthly utility bill things. And it would require, I think, some considerable thought about how to do that across the, it's one thing to say we have a very large Chinese population, but, then we have, as I think Sarah was saying, we have a number of other, and Michelle was saying, we have a number of other marginalized populations, but something that would point people to connections. And I do think, Blythe spoke eloquently of her experience in Egypt and Romania, but also, our website things. We are, this is certainly something the town could be much more intentional and organized on what we do on the town website.
Our communications director is texting me as we speak with ideas.
So one of the things that struck me is, and I realized it when I moved back here, but my neighborhood has turned over a lot. My street has turned over, and the welcome wagon actually had a role at some point, and we haven't had it for decades. And I think we're struggling with, people are going online more, but there's no place where somebody's thoughtfully putting that together, and people don't know where to look for it online, and is it in the right language? And are we, as neighbors, reaching out to our neighbors and telling them where to go? I was telling Reverend Butter that I was a new family to the Wellesley Public Schools. So I grew up here. My son went to a parochial elementary school. So I went to the new parent orientation as new to the community. And it was a phenomenal experience because it was a beautiful, eclectic collection of residents in our town. And the big discussion was, how do you get to the dump? Why do I go to the dump? What's the best coffee shop? Things that you know when you live here, but there's no roadmap for it. And I think, Jack, to your point, we are missing that navigation tool of where to go that ties together WeCan and ESL and what the schools are doing, what World of Wellesley's doing, and, orientations by your broker for how to get around that cross that barrier.
One of the things I think about a lot is something Reverend Butter said, which is diversity in leadership positions. And I think all of us who are involved in organizations that do planning and outreach should find a way to get together, because collectively we need to create a pipeline for the town, for the next generation of town meeting members and board members and community leaders and PTO presidents and things like that. And unless, as Reverend Butter said, unless we sit down and talk to one another, we're not going to be able to do that planning. So I would encourage a follow-up to this, and I'd be happy to work with Beth and Michelle and Reverend Butter on it, to get people together to figure out literally how to tap people and explain to them what's going on in town, because we have, I don't know, 30 calls for people to run for town positions. But if people don't know how the town works or what that means or what it entails, it's not going to mean anything to them. So I'd like to challenge all of us to get together and create a next generation pipeline, townwide, for everything that is going to need leadership in the next 10, 20 years.
You know, I certainly knew that there were many resources in town, but I think that one of the most striking parts of tonight's forum was to actually hear from the students, see the progress, see their commitment to Wellesley, and their commitment to trying to participate here, whether it was Wellesley or another town. And to this last point that's being made, when I served on the Town Government Study Committee, one of the things we looked at was within whatever diversity exists in Wellesley, how do we reflect that in town meeting members, for example, and in various committees and boards? What we all should realize, and frequently don't, is that a barrier to communication does not mean that the individual hasn't participated where they've come from, doesn't have an extraordinarily facile mind and set of opinions and ability to contribute in different ways. We miss all of that because of the communication barrier. And so I think that we do need to continue to tap into these groups here in town. It's another way of making people feel welcome, to show that their opinions and their participation is valued. And I think we have to do the work to try to figure out optimal roles for people who are still becoming comfortable with communication, to become involved and make a contribution. But you know, we talk a lot about through the Unified Plan, for example, which you can speak to, Marjorie, about our wish for broader diversity here in town. But we also recognize the economic barriers in terms of housing costs and the ability to get here. And so we're trying to do that work with the housing production plan that people on the board and the planning board and others have tried to do in terms of targeting other entry points in terms of residential rental and buy purchasing here, to bring a broader group of people here in town. So thank you very much for taking the time tonight. I really appreciate it. I always learn a lot from these forums, and it means a lot to me as a selectman.
So I think we'd like to thank everyone for your unbelievably terrific presentation. I think the word is courageousness, coming forward to share your experiences and your thoughts. I'd like to especially thank Michelle Chalmers from World of Wellesley and Linda Chow from the school committee for their help in identifying our excellent panelists and for coming today. So we will continue the conversation, and hopefully we will see many of you on Monday at breakfast for Martin Luther King Day, or in the afternoon at Sprague for the family gathering. Thank you.